Hello everyone! This module is brought to you by the collaboration of the camp instructors of Angeles University Foundations. My name is Romania Salazar and I will be your speaker for today. Module 2 of MTMTLB will be all about the law related and governing the Philippine Regulatory Commission. Our objective for this module is for the students to be able to identify and explain the different provisions affecting the practices of medical technology and also the role of PRC in the regulation and monitoring of practicing professionals. On this presentation, we will have a brief history and background of the organization, the Philippine Regulatory Commission. Also, we will be enumerating and discussing the different PRC-related laws. The PRC main office could be found at CSC Building, P. Paredes Street, Sampaloc, Metro Manila. The Professional Regulation Commission was first created as a national government agency by the Presidential Decree Number 223 dated on June 22, 1973, which was then signed by the President Ferdinand E. Marcos. This mandate to enforce the laws regulating the various professions. It was previously called the Office of the Board of Examiners, which was created by the Republic Act No. 546 on June 17, 1950, under the aegis of the Civil Service Commission. The PRC became operational on January 4, 1974, and the office was attached to the Office of the President for General Direction and Coordination. And then, on December 9, 1974, the implementing rules and regulation of the Presidential Decree Number 223 was promulgated, paving the way for standardization of rules and procedures for 33 professions during that time under the Civil Service Commission. The vision of the PRC is for the organization to stand as an instrument of the Filipino people in securing our nation with reliable, trustworthy, and progressive system of determining the competence of professionals by credible and valid licensure examinations and standards of professional practice that are globally recognized, meaning they provide the country with reliable and competent professionals. Their mission is that they deliberately, scientifically, and consistently determine the competence of professionals through the provision of the professional standard and judicious issuance of professional license. The licensing and regulatory agency of the national government for the practice of the regulated professions is committed to deliver service excellence to all its stakeholders with utmost professionalism and integrity through efficient and effective quality management system by responsibility, unity, and accountability in assuring the public is served morally upright and highly ethical and globally competitive Filipino. Professionals and competence and excellence, credibility are all to be practiced in ensuring a trustworthy system of implementing the standards of practice of all professions. It had also set its new trust and priorities such as customer-focused services, modernization through full computerization and restructuring, integrity of licensure examinations, good governance, protection and promotion of Filipino professionals, and support to national development priorities. On December 5, 2000, the President then, Joseph Ejercito Estrada, signed Republic Act No. 8981, otherwise known as the PRC Modernization Act of 2000. The implementing rules and regulations were adopted on February 15, 2001 through the PRC Resolution No. 1 Series of 2001. With the passing of the RA 8981, the Commission exercises three core functions. One is executive function, two is quasi-legislative function, and the third, quasi-judicial function. Executive function involves implementation, administration, and enforcement of regulatory policies of the national government. Quasi-judicial involves investigation of unlawful, inappropriate, and destructive behaviors of examinees and professionals. Please take note, class, that their decision is as authoritative as the regional trial court. And third one, quasi-legislative, involves formulation of rules and policies. Now, here are the related laws to the Commission that we will be discussing through this module, some in full details and some in passing through the succeeding slides. So you have the Presidential Decree number 223, Series of 1973, Republic Act number 8981, PRC Resolution number 2013-774, Series of 2013, PRC Resolution number 2016-990, Series of 2016, Republic Act number 10912, PRC Resolution number 1032, Series of 2017. We will now go to Presidential Decree number 223, Series of 1973, and the law is entitled Creating the Professional Regulation Commission and Prescribing its Powers and Function. This law has 10 sections, and the Presidential Decree 223 is the first law that was established and signed by President Ferdinand Marcos on June 22, 1973, to oversee the function of PRC, which is to standardize the rules and procedure of all 33 professions under Civil Service Commission during that time. Take note, class, that now it will be more than 33 professions under succeeding provisions of this law. Section 1 of Presidential Decree number 223, Series of 1973, describes PRC as a three-man commission, which shall be attached to the Office of the President for General Direction and Coordination, which means that there are three key positions in the PRC that are directly reporting to the Office of the President. And also, at the same time, the President has the power to appoint these three important positions. At present, our chairman is Teofilo Pilando Jr., and we have two commissioners, Commissioner Jose Y. Cueto Jr. and Yolanda D. Reyes. Section 2 talks about the composition of the commission, which shall be headed by one full-time commissioner and two full-time associate commissioners, all to be appointed by the President for a term of 9 years. Take note, class, that it is 9 years in this presidential decree kasi in the succeeding provisions of this law, may iba yan. So this 9-year appointment shall be without reappointment. And then for the first of the two associate commissioner, one shall be appointed for 6 years and the other for 3 years. Stated also in this section is the minimum requirements that includes at least 40 years of age, familiarity of the person to be appointed with the principles and method of professional regulation and or licensing, and lastly, should have at least 5 years of executive or managerial experience. Section 3 states that the commissioner, who shall be the chairman of the commission and the associate commissioners as the member, shall work on as a whole to exercise general administrative, executive, and policy-making function for the whole agency. Section 4 is about the compensation of the commissioner and the associate commissioner, which shall be for the commissioner at least or not less than 48,000 pesos per year with 500 pesos allowance. And for the associates, 36,000 pesos yearly with 350 pesos allowance. Take note, class, that nowadays this is not really applicable. I'm not telling you that their sweldo is just 48,036. This presidential decree tells you that you cannot give them less than this amount. Yun lang ang ibig sabihin nito. Okay, class? Section 5 states the power of the commission. Ito guys, medyo mahaba-haba ito. So, first is to administer and implement and enforce the regulatory policies of the national government with respect to the regulation and licensing of the various professions and occupations. Basically, this power means that they are in charge in the maintenance of professional and occupational standards, ethics, and enforcement of the rules and regulation of all the profession under the mandate. Next, the second is to perform any and all acts, enter into contract, making sure that all services provided by the Commission is at its highest standard, where all the rules and regulations are all executed and implemented across the country. And third, to review, coordinate, integrate, and approve the policies, resolutions, rules, and regulations, orders, or decision promulgated by the various boards with respect to the profession or occupation under their jurisdiction. Let's say, for example, class, the Board of Examiners have presented new regulation with regards to taking the board exam during pandemic, including the percentage of passing rate. So, for whatever reason they may have, they will present the new um, rules and regulation that they would want to apply during pandemic, and the commission will be exercising their administrative function in deciding this matter. And after execution of the decision, it will be final unless appealed to the commission again by the boards within 30 days from the date of promulgation. The fourth power is to administer and conduct the licensure examination of various boards according to the rules and regulation promulgated by it. So they will determine and fix the places, including the buildings and facility, and also the date of examination. Remember guys that before the pandemic, there are specific places where you can take the board exam only for METEC. For instance, it's in Baguio, Metro Manila, and Davao. Pero as the pandemic begins, there were provision to this law. But also, this provision should be approved by the commission. Dapat. Included in this power also is to appoint the supervisors and room examiners that may be from government institution or private individual who have been trained by the PRC for this purpose. They also determine the compensation for these room examiners to a daily allowance not less than 10 pesos for every examination day that they have actually attended. Within this power also is the approval of release of the exam results. Basically, they will not release the result until it is validated by the commission. The fifth power is to keep and maintain a register of the authorized practitioner of the profession or occupation. Also included in this power is the issuance of certificates, making sure that they are duly signed by the board commissioner and with the seal of the board affixed to it. Another power is record keeping. They shall have the custody of all the records of various boards, including examination papers, minutes of deliberation, records of the administrative cases and investigation, and of course, the examination results. Next power is to determine a fixed amount to be collected from the examiners for the examination, registration without examination, licenses, annual registration fees, certification, surcharges, any surcharges under the provision of Public Act Republic Act number 6511 entitled An Act to Standardize the Examination and Registration Fees charged by the National Examining Board and for other purposes. Also, for other fees not specified in this act, they can amend the rates and provided they are approved by the Office of the President. The next power of the Commission is that they can appoint employees or officials of the Commission, even rearrange their designation according to the need and function of the organization. They can create or abolish positions as long as it is subjected to the provisions of existing laws, and provided the change or the rearrangement that they will do shall not affect the employment status of the incumbents or reduce their ranks or salary, nor resulting to separation from the services. The ninth power of the Commission is that it may submit and recommend to the President of the Philippines nominees for appointment as a member of the various boards from among those nominated by the professional organization accredited by the Commission to fill existing or probable vacancies. So what the minimum standard for this is, if they will recommend you to be member of the boards for medtech, dapat ang profession mo is also medtech and so forth. Under Section 5 pa rin, letter J or the 10th power of the Commission on foreign professional to practice in our country, the Commission may approve on recommendation the registration and authorize issuance of certificate of registration to a foreign national registered under the law of his country. Provided, ito yung ating provided. So meaning kailangan, the requirement in his country reciprocate the requirements of a registered professional here in the Philippines. That is one condition. In addition, we have what we call reciprocity, where our nationals are allowed to practice in their country, provided we comply with the requirements, same as their national can be allowed to practice the profession here in the Philippines, provided these foreigners comply with our requirements. And lastly, syempre, this should be proven by documentation. So, dapat all of these are documented and passed to the Commission. Amending Section 5, letter J of the power of the Commission is the Presidential Decree 657, which was signed in February 19, 1975. They amend this section with regards to a well-known or extraordinary foreign expert in their field, that they may, on temporary special permit, could be allowed to practice the profession between countries regardless of the reciprocity. So, example of these experts are the ones from WHO, UNICEF, Doctors Without Borders. Ayan, sila yun. Continuing on to the powers of the Commission shall have general supervision over foreign nationals who are authorized or granted special permit to practice their profession temporarily in the Philippines, and making sure that the terms and conditions for their employment are strictly observed and followed. In addition, the Commission has the power to revise collegiate courses through the Secretary of Education and Commission on Higher Education to set the minimum required prerequisites for admission into the practice of the profession. So, for example, through the administrative orders, they may enumerate how many units of certain courses should you have finished before you can go through the internship. At the same time, the number of hours for the clinical internship are as well decided upon by the Commission before you can take the exam. Additionally, the Commission has the power to exercise general supervision of the Commission over the members of the various boards. Next is the Commission has the power to promulgate rules and regulations as they may be necessary to effectively implement policies with respect to the regulation and practice of the professions. And lastly, to perform other functions and duties as needed to carry out effectively with various provision of the professional regulatory laws, decrees, or order. Okay, now, Section 6, powers, function, and responsibilities of the various boards naman. So, take note that these boards are specific to each profession, sabi natin kanina. Example, no? The Board of Medical Technology shall include people within our profession. So, the first function of the board is to look into the conditions and situation of our professionals on the practice of the profession on the ground. For instance, they would see that, for example, ngayong pandemic, no, our professionals are at greater risk. So, they may recommend provisions of the rules and regulations so our professionals would be safe and may continue to work without compromising ethical and professional standards. And syempre, no, the welfare of our professional at most. Okay? So, the board also are the investigatory body in case of violation of the law. For example, no, malpractice or any unethical act within the profession, sa kanila tayo magrereklamo and they will investigate. They will also be the one that will set the hearing and make decision on these cases to be reviewed by the commission. So as we also mentioned kanina, the commission has the last say. So sila yung deciding body. Also, the boards are the ones that approve registration without examination. And syempre, also, they are responsible with the issuance of corresponding certificate of registration. And because they are the one that issue the certificate of registration, they can suspend and revoke them. So, kung kaya nilang mag-revoke and suspend, pwede rin naman silang mag-reissue once appealed. Most importantly, the last function, they prepare the content of the licensure exams. They record the scores, rates, and all the paperwork should be submitted to the commission in a span of 120 days. Section 7, names of various boards. So, the names of the various boards shall be changed by the commission by deleting the word examiners. So, dati yung Medical Technology Board of Examiners, ganyan ang tawag. So, the commission will delete the word examiners. So, it will be Medical Technology Board na lang. For Section 8, transfer of personnel, funds, records, and so forth. So, the present Office of the Board of Examiners or the boards of the professionals, its personnel, funds, records, supplies, equipment, material, furniture, and other fixtures are hereby transferred to the Commission. Section 9, it is the repealing clause. So, the provision of Republic Act number 546, yung Republic Act 546 class is the Civil Service Code, are hereby repealed as well as those of other pertinent laws inconsistent herewith. So, pag sinabi nating repealing clause, all laws, decrees, orders, resolutions, instructions, rules, and regulation, or any part of the law inconsistent with this act are hereby deemed modified accordingly. So, yun ang ibig sabihin ng repealing clause. In Section 10, it states the effectivity. So, this decree shall take effect immediately. This is done in Metro Manila, 22nd day of June, in the year of our Lord, 1973. So, that's your Presidential Decree number 223, series of 1973. On December 5, 2000, President then, Joseph Ejercito Estrada, signed Republic Act number 8981, otherwise known as the PRC Modernization Act of 2000. So the implementing rules and regulations were adopted on February 19, 2001 through the PRC Resolution number 1 series of 2001. This act aims to modernize and fully automate the function of the PRC and at the same time increase the integrity of the licensure examination. It makes sure that the delivery of the result makes faster by enabling the PRC to publish them 3 days after the examination has taken place. And in addition, statistical reports of school performance were made available for viewing as well with this act. This act has 21 sections and the effectivity clause. Section 1 of Republic Act 8981 states the title of this act, which shall be PRC Modernization Act of 2000. Section 2 is the Statement of Policy, which recognizes the important role of professionals in nation building towards promoting the sustainable development and reserve of professionals whose competence has been determined by honest and credible licensure examination with standards of professional services and practice which are internationally recognized and considered world-class, with brought about by the regulatory measures, programs, and activity that fosters professional growth and advancement. Section 3 describes the PRC. As we recall from PD 223, they are created as a three-man institution or organization, which is called Professional Regulation Commission, with the commission as the head, which is directly under the supervision of the Office of the President for instruction and coordination. And the same as the Section 4, composition of the PRC, as mentioned in the Presidential Decree 223, the commission shall be headed by one full-time chairperson and two full-time commissioner or associate, which is also appointed by the President, same lang. Pero, ang difference, as I have mentioned, if you will recall, in Presidential Decree 223, the appointment is 9 years. Dito, the term shall be for 7 years only. Okay? And then, for the minimum requirements, same lang naman, 40 years of age, familiar with the principles and method of the PRC, and also 5 years managerial experience, and in addition, with the requirements, should hold a valid professional or competency license. Section 5 states the exercise of power and function of the Commission as stated in Presidential Decree 223. The chairperson of the Commission and the commissioners as a member shall sit and act as a whole to exercise general administrative, executive, and policy-making function of the Commission. So, the Commission shall establish and maintain a high standard of admission to the practice of all professions and at all times ensure and safeguard the integrity of the licensure exams. The chairperson shall act as the presiding and chief executive officer of the Commission, therefore shall preside over meetings as collegiate body, and as the chief executive officer of the Commission shall be responsible for the implementation of the policies and the programs adopted for general admission of the Commission. Also, they shall perform other activities which are necessary for the effective exercise of the power, function, and responsibility of the Commission. In Section 6, it states the compensation and other benefit. So, the chairperson in this act shall receive compensation and allowances equivalent to that of the Department of Secretary. Department Secretary. So, kunyari, mga Secretary of Health, Secretary of Department of Education, magkakaparehas na dapat sila ng compensation. So, this, for example, this will range from 340 to 400,000 per year. While the commissioners shall receive the compensation and allowance equivalent to that of an undersecretary. So, yung mga associate commissioners niya, yung commissioner 1 and 2, dapat ang sweldo nila will be like the undersecretary naman. And also, The chairperson and the members of the commission shall be entitled to a retirement benefit provided under Republic Act 1568 as amended by the Republic Act 3595. So for Section 7, meron tayong powers, function, and responsibility of the Commission. So for this section, meron tayong 25 powers, functions, and responsibility. Some are redundant of what is stated in Presidential Decree 223. So I will just mention here yung mga additional class. But please, please, please go over them on your free time. You have to read them before your assessment next week. Okay, class? So, in addition to those which are already written in Presidential Decree 223, meron tayong letter D, Section 7, letter D, to administer and conduct the licensure examination of various regulatory boards in accordance with the rules and regulations promulgated by the Commission, including the determination of fixed place and dates of examination, unless ngayong pandemic, no, naiiba yung mga dates. Pero supposedly, for example, yung boards natin, as mentioned before, it was usually done during September and March. Okay? So, again, even the designation of buildings and facility for examination are written here. So, the Commission can decide to have only one exam during the year. However, pag nag-decide sila to have only one exam during a year, it has to be scheduled during weekdays. Okay? So, kung dalawa naman yung schedule nila, basta dapat yung isang exam should be scheduled during weekdays. And finally, the Commission is also authorized to require the completion of a refresher course. Ayan, yung refresher course na naririnig natin, wherein if the examinee has failed to pass the board exam 3 times, bago siya makapag-boards ulit, he or she has to take a refresher course. So these refresher course are provided by any accredited medical technology school. So the Commission also is mandated to publish the list of successful examinees. And in addition, provide schools, colleges, and universities, public and private, offering courses for the licensure examinations with copies of sample test questions and examinations recently conducted by the Commission, and also copy of syllabi or table of specification of subjects for licensure exams. Okay? And also, lastly, to impose penalty of suspension or prohibition from taking licensure examinations to any examinee charged and found guilty of violating the rules and regulations governing the conduct of licensure examinations promulgated by the Commission. Additional information lang, class, on examination. So, the Commission could suspend the examination provided there is a calamity. Calamity example is there is an earthquake, there's a tornado that happens, o kaya in case of epidemic, with less than 25% of the examinees are absent, or ayun na nga, kunyari, pandemic, 25% of the examinees wala, so they can suspend the exam. Tardiness during examination, sana naman you'll never be late sa board exams, diba? But in extreme cases that you will be late, you can still be accepted 30 minutes or less. Kapag dumating ka ng 30 minutes or less from the time that was given to you. Let's say, for example, the exam will start at 8 o'clock, dumating ka ng 8:30. Provided that no other examinees have finished the exam. So, kung dumating ka kunyari ng 8:15, pero may natapos na, you shall not be allowed. Failed ka na nun sa board exam. Okay? And submission of the application for the boards shall be 20 days before the examination date or less. So, pwede ka pang mag-pass ng application to take the boards 20 days before the examination date. Still on Section 7, so these are functions unique to PRC. They monitor the performance of the school in licensure exam. So before kasi magre-release lang ng results and that's it. But now, as you can see, if they will release the results, meron na ring kasamang performance ng mga school. And they approve and release board exam results and issuance of certificate of registration and recommend to the president the roster of new professionals. In Section 8, it states that the commission is authorized to create regional offices as may be necessary to carry out their function mandate under this act in farther areas of the Philippines. So, noong panahon namin, kokonti pa lang ang mga offices ng PRC. But nowadays, there are satellite offices found in the provinces to make it easier for the professionals to apply, certificates of registrations, and sometimes pati yung pag-renew ng license. Mas mapadali. Section 9 states the power, functions, and responsibilities of the various professional boards. As you can see, the ones enumerated in the slide, they are the functions unique to the Professional Regulatory Board. They are responsible in the regulation and monitoring of the practices of the respective professions. In case of administrative cases, investigation are done by the professional boards within their professions, and decision becomes final in 15 days once it is not appealed to the commission. They are also the ones responsible for creation of syllabus for the examination and formulation of the board questions. The submission of the results of the board exam should be duly performed by the professional board within 10 days. They also serve as the CPE council, and also they can authorize any officer of the Professional Regulatory Commission to administer oath. They are the one responsible to administer and conduct licensure exams of various professions, review, and also they revise and approve the resolutions. Administration and implementation of policies of the Commission should also be within the responsibility of your professional boards. Section 10 states the compensation of the members of the Professional Regulatory Board shall receive compensation equivalent to at least 2 salary grades lower than the salary grade of the commissioner. And also, it states here that they are entitled to other allowances and benefits provided under the existing law. In Section 11, it states there that all subjects for licensure examination shall be taught by persons who are holder of valid certificates of registration and valid professional licenses of the profession and who comply with other requirements of the CHED. So, for example, in Angeles University Foundation, if you are taking the program Medical Technology and you're taking the course that are medical technology board exam subjects or courses, the ones who teach them should have a license or should be a registered medical technologist only. Plus, other requirements by the Commission on Higher Education for a instructor or a professor in order for it to be qualified as a professor. So, example of those are masteral units and doctoral units. In Section 12, it states here that any law enforcement agency shall, upon call or request of the Commission or any professional regulatory board, render assistance in enforcing the regulatory law of the profession, including the rules and regulations promulgated by prosecuting and violators thereof in accordance with the law and the rules of court. So, for example, there is a case in a criminal court and kailangang tawagin yung expertise of the PRC or the Professional Regulatory Board, you cannot say no, and you have to go and stand there to give your professional point of view. In Section 13, the appropriations defines the annual expenditures of the Commission to be guided by the General Appropriation Act. And in addition, Section 14, the annual appropriation of the Commission provided by the annual General Appropriation Act is uh, authorizing the Commission to use its income not exceeding the amount of 45 million pesos a year for a period of 5 years after the effectivity of this act to implement the program or full computerization of the appropriations of the Commission, subject to the usual accounting and auditing requirements. Penalties for manipulation and other corrupt practices of professional examinations are stated in Section 15. Any person who manipulates or rigs licensure examination results includes those people who secretly informs or makes known licensure examination question prior to the conduct of examination. Or these people are the ones who tampered with the grades in the professional licensure exam. They shall be convicted by punishment of imprisonment not less than 6 years and 1 day to not more than 12 years, or a fine not less than 50,000 pesos to not more than 100,000 pesos, or both imprisonment and fine due to the discretion of the court. In case of the offender is an officer or employee of the commissioner or a member of the regulatory board, they shall be immediately removed from the office and shall suffer the penalty of perpetua absolute disqualification from public office, in addition to the penalties prescribed in the preceding section of this act. So meaning they cannot hold any government office anymore at all in the future. The penalty of imprisonment ranging from 4 years and 1 day to 6 years, or a fine ranging from 20,000 to not more than 49,000 pesos, or both with the discretion of the court, shall be imposed upon the accomplice. The penalty of imprisonment ranging from 2 years and 1 day to 4 years, or a fine ranging from 5,000 to not more than 19,000, or both imprisonment and fine at the discretion of the court, shall be imposed upon the accessories. So ano bang difference ng accomplice at accessory to the crime? When you say accomplice, it helps you commit the crime. But if you're just an accessory, it helps you get away with the crime. So yun yung difference ng dalawa. Section 16 is about penalties for violation of Section 7. So any head of a government agency or office of a private firm or institution who violates Section 7, ano ba yung Section 7? This is the powers, functions, and responsibilities of the PRC, shall be punished by imprisonment of not less than 6 months and 1 day to not more than 6 years, or a fine of not less than 50,000 pesos to not more than 500,000 pesos, or both with the discretion of the court. In Section 17, this is the implementing rules and regulations. So within 90 days after the approval of this act, the PRC, together with the representative of the various professional regulatory boards and accredited professional organizations, shall prepare and promulgate the necessary rules and regulations needed to implement the provision of this act. In Section 18, transitory provision, this means that in times of transition, when the appointment is almost finished, the incumbent commissioner and the 2 incumbent associate commissioners shall serve as the chairperson and commissioners respectively under the terms for which they have been appointed, without the need of new appointment until the new personnel is appointed. In Section 19, the separability clause means if any provision of this act or the application of such provision to any person or circumstances is declared invalid or unconstitutional, the remainder of this act or application of such provision to other person or circumstance shall not be affected by such declaration. So magkakahiwalay sila. And in Section 20, again, it's the repealing clause. Included here is the Republic Act number 546, Presidential Decree 223, as amended by Presidential Decree 657, the Republic Act 5181, and Executive Order number 266 series of 1995 are hereby repealed. Section 23H of the Republic Act number 7836, Section 4M and S, Section 23 of Republic Act number 7920, and Section 29 of Republic Act 8050, insofar as it requires completion of the requirements of the Continuing Professional Education or CPE as a condition for the renewal of the license are hereby repealed. All other laws, orders, rules, and regulations of the resolution and all parts thereof, inconsistent with the provision of this act, are hereby repealed or amended accordingly. And lastly, Section 21 states that this act shall take effect after 15 days following publications in Official Gazette or into general circulating newspaper, whichever is earlier. And this one is approved December 5th, 2000. And so this class are related laws with the PRC Modernization Act. Kindly take note of this law and please find time to browse on its content. As I mentioned kanina, we will not dwell on each of the law one by one, but please kindly read on it. These are laws related to your CPE or continuing professional education, which shall be mandatory for the renewal of your license. So you have your Executive Order number 226 signed by our President then, Fidel V. Ramos, on July 25, 1995. You have your PRC Resolution number 223-774, which was signed by Teresita R. Manzala on July 25, 2013. You have your PRC Resolution 2016-990, signed by Teofilo Pilandro Jr. on June 28, 2016. Republic Act 10912, an act mandating and strengthening the continuing professional development program for all regulated professions, creating continuing professional development council, and appropriating funds in any other function, or in short term, it is the Continuing Development Act of 2016. This law constitutes 19 sections and was approved by our late President Benigno Aquino III. This was signed on July 21, 2016. Section 1 of the Republic Act 10912 states the title. Section 2 is the declaration of the policy, which is for the purpose of promoting and upgrading the practice of the professions in the country, which in Republic Act 10912, 53 na yung professions under PRC, while in Presidential Decree kanina, it's only 33. And in Section 3, you will see the definition of terms. However, I will not go through the definition of terms one by one, but kindly look at these terms one by one before your assessment. Okay, class? Hindi ko na sila iisa-isahin, pero please read on the definition of terms. Thank you. Section 4, strengthening the CPD program by formulating and implementing CPD program in each of the regulated profession, specifically for the purpose of enhancement and upgrade of the competencies and qualification of professionals for the practice of their profession. They also ensure international alignment of competencies and qualifications of professionals through career progression, mechanisms leading to specialization or subspecialization. They ensure the development of quality-assured mechanism for the validation, accreditation, and recognition of formal, non-formal, and informal learning outcomes, including professional work experiences, and prior learning experiences. They also ensure maintenance of core competencies and development of advanced and new competencies in order to respond to national, regional, and international labor market needs. And lastly, recognize and ensure the contributions of professionals in uplifting the general welfare, economic growth, and development of our nation. For Section 5, on the nature of CPD program, it shall consist of activities that range from structured to non-structured activities which have learning processes and outcomes. This includes but are not limited to the following: formal learning, non-formal learning, informal learning, self-directed learning, online learning activities, and professional work experiences. Section 6 states that the PRC and the PRBs shall undertake the overall implementation of the CPD program, and for this purpose shall organize CPD councils for each of the regulated professions and promulgate guidelines for the operation. They shall review existing and new CPD programs for all the regulated professions. They shall formulate, issue, and promulgate guidelines and procedures for the implementation of the CPD programs. They also shall coordinate with the academe, concerned government agencies, and other stakeholders in the implementation of the CPD program and other measures provided under this law. And finally, coordinate with concerned government agencies in the development of mechanism and guidelines in the grant and transfer of credit units earned from all the learning processes and activities in the pursuant of this Act. Section 7 states that CPD Council should be created for each of the regulatory professions, which shall be under the supervision of the concerned professional regulatory board. Every CPD Council shall be composed of a chairperson and 2 members. The chairperson of the CPD Council shall be a member of the Professional Regulatory Board, and one of the members should be the president or officer of accredited integrated professional organization or accredited professional organization, and the other member should be a president or officer of the National Organization of Deans or department chairperson of schools, colleges, and university. Section 8 states the power, function, and responsibility of CPD Council for each profession, which shall ensure the adequate and appropriate provisions of CPD program. They should evaluate and act on application for accreditation of CPD providers in their CPD programs as well. Monitor and evaluate the implementation of CPD program, assess or upgrade the criteria for accreditation of the CPD providers and their programs. They should develop mechanism for the validation, accreditation, and recognition of the learning processes, conduct researches, studies, and benchmarking for international alignment of our programs, and issue operational guidelines, and lastly, perform other functions necessary for the smooth sailing of the Council. Section 9 states that a CPD Council Secretariat is created at the PRC Central and Regional Office to provide technical, administrative, and operational support to the CPD Councils and PRBs in implementation of the CPD program. The CPD Council Secretariat shall be headed by an Executive Director to be appointed by the PRC as well. Section 10 states that the CPD is made mandatory in renewal of the professional license of all registered and licensed professionals under the regulation of the PRC. And in Section 11, a duly validated and recognized CPD credit units earned by the professional shall be accumulated and transferred in accordance to the pathway and equivalence of these programs. And the PRC and PRB shall formulate and implement a career progression and specialization program for every profession. And this career progression and specialization program shall be included in part of the CPD units that are needed in the renewal of the licenses. And Section 13 states that all concerned government agencies and private firms and organizations employing professionals shall include CPD as part of their human resource development plan and program, so that even though you are employed, you have the time and you have your employer supporting you in your continuing education. So for the final provisions of or the Article 4 of the Republic Act 10912 includes Section 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Section 14 is all about fundings. 15 is the implementation rules and regulations, which states that the PRC and the PRBs, in consultation with the accredited professional organization and other stakeholders, shall promulgate the implementation of these rules and regulations, or the IRR, within 6 months from this effectivity of the Act. PRC Resolution Number 1032 Series of 2017, which is the implementing rules and regulation of Republic Act 10912, known as the Continuing Professional Development Act of 2016, is signed by your PRC Commissioner Teofilo Pilandro Jr. on February 15, 2017. So this IRR, I'll be talking about on the next slide. For the Section 16, it states here that any fraudulent act related to the implementation and enforcement of this act shall be punishable under the pertinent provision of the revised penal code, the new civil code, and other applicable laws, including suspension and revocation of license, and in case of government employee, shall be administered penalties that may be imposed under the anti-graft law, administrative code, and the code of conduct of the public officials and employees. Section 17 states the separability clause, wherein if any part of the provision of this act is declared invalid or unconstitutional, the other provisions not affected shall remain in full force and effect. And 18, Section 18, the repealing clause, all laws, decrees, executive orders, and other administrative issuance or part thereof which are inconsistent with the provision of this act are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. And on Section 19, this act shall have been taken effect 15 days following its completion of the publication in Official Gazette or in any two general circulating newspapers in the Philippines. And this was approved by the Speaker of the House, Feliciano Belmonte Jr., Senate President Franklin Dillon on August 3, 2015 as Senate Bill number 2581, was adopted as an amendment to the House Bill number 6423 by the House Representative on May 23, 2016, and signed by former President Benigno Aquino III on July 21, 2016. The PRC Resolution Number 1032 Series of 2017, or known as the Implementing Rules and Regulation of Republic Act 10912, known as the Continuing Professional Development Act of 2016, was signed by Teofilo Pilandro Jr. in February 15, 2017, states that the renewal period where CPD units are mandatory shall be implemented in gradual minimum requirements of CP units. However, the grace period for this was only from January 2017 to December 2018. So, in January 2019 onwards, full implementation na siya. So basically, this resolution was somehow obsolete kasi tapos na yung nakalagay dun sa resolution niya. So as stated in your PRC Resolution number 1032 series of 2017, these professionals enumerated in the slides in full implementation needs 45 CPD units before you can renew your license. So, kung makikita niyo in the slide, there is this CPD and CPE. So, the difference between the two, pag CPD, it is the continuing professional development, could be yung listed before, that it may be an informal or non-formal trainings, seminars, yung mga yan. May mga kaukulan silang CP units. Let's say, for example, you'll attend a PAMET convention, meron kang kaukulang CPD units. Pag sinabing CPE, these are the ones that you get from formal education. So, naka-enroll ka in a continuing education. So, the requirements for all Bachelor of Science graduate is 60 units and 30 units for non-BS graduates. And in addition, the requirement for all medtechs are 90 units for BSMT graduates and 60 units for non-BSMT graduates and 45 units for MT medtechs in remote areas. Kasi mas mahirap kumuha ng schooling if you are in a remote area. In addition, these are the following programs or activity which you can get continuing professional education units. So, if you are a participant, depende yun kung ilang continuing professional units ang meron yung program approved by the PRC. If you are a resource speaker, meron kang 3 credit units per hour. If you're a panelist or reactor, 2 credit units per hour. Facilitator or moderator has 1 credit units per hour, and so forth. In further studies, sa mga master in degrees in science, you have 1 CPE unit per subject plus 30 units upon completion. Pag PhD, 2 CPE unit per subject plus 45 units upon completion, and you can use this only once in your renewal. And these are our references. Thank you everyone for listening. For your questions, inquiries, and clarifications, please do not hesitate to contact me at any of this platform, and I will gladly do my best to assist and address your concerns. Thank you very much. Have a nice day and happy learning.